Hi, welcome to PJ and the Beard. This is our 19 conversation series that started as a way of offering what we're calling an hour of distraction for people. You know, something that's totally just geared towards talking about guitar and talking. Welcome to PJ and the Beard. Excuse me, talking about things that we enjoy every time. Gets me every time. So today, and we said yesterday, one of the things we've been really grateful for and lucky to have happen as we've been doing this conversation is to get some really cool people in the guitar industry on the show with us. And today's no different. Today we have Dave Sestito from DLS Effects. How you doing, Dave?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. And Dave's been on the show with us before. You did an interview with us a while back.
Correct.
And so that interview actually sparked the idea for the Tremolo series that we're following the Leslie series with, because in that interview you talked about your tremolo pedal, and Pat was
I was like, what?
The moment it was over, he's like, I want to know more about that tremolo pedal. I got to know more about that tremolo pedal. So that kind of led us down the hole of doing the Tremolo series, which is hopefully coming soon. We should be recording right now, but instead we're doing live streams once a day. So Dave, Paul Wolf was in. Paul Wolf was on the show a couple days ago. He actually a neighbor of mine, but builds acoustic guitars, and so he gave us a whole tour of his thing. So Dave, artists, people that play your pedals. One of those artists is Frank Hannon.
Frank Hannon, yeah.
Correct.
Do you does he have? Do you know what pedals you know what pedals he's used, right?
Oh yeah, he's kind of been all over the board. He used our Course Vibe. He used our RotoSim when that was active. Then he went to our RotoSPIN. So mainly those three pedals. But he's also had at his studio the whole gamut. Our Echo Tap when we made an Echo. I think he had the Tremolo at one point. Tremolo. And maybe our distortion unit he used on tour as well, the Reckless Driver.
Awesome. So
great name.
We've been, yeah, I do. I like that name too. We've been doing a kind of clip of the day. So Pat, I'm going to let you explain the clip of the day for today while I try and figure out how to get it up here.
Yeah, it was really interesting. You know, self-admittedly, maybe not a big Tesla fan for whatever reason. Not that it's a bad band. I was probably into more processed 80s, 90s. Steve Lukather and whatnot. And then I was with guys from CR Alsip that we've interviewed on the show before, and they talked about Frank Hannon being one of their artists, and he was from Tesla. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I'm actually hanging out at the CR Alsip place where they build their guitars, and they're like, hey, let me play you some of Frank's solo work. And they played it, and I was like, wow, that is amazing, because it's a complete diversion, if you will, from maybe some of the stuff he did in Tesla, right? Like it's much more broad. So that's when I kind of first heard of Frank, and then we meet Dave, and on Dave's list of artists, there's Frank Hannon name comes up again. So his name kept popping up, and I thought, well, let's feature Frank. And so kind of two worlds colliding here. It's actually a little clip of him playing a CR Alsip guitar in a studio. And to Dave's point a minute ago, if you go on a little Frank Hannon rabbit trail, you'll find several DLS video clips of him demoing the pedals, and has about 4 or 5 on a board. So go take a trip down there and you'll see some of Dave's pedals demoed by Frank Hannon. But here's the clip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, self-admitted not a Tesla fan, but I'm guessing there wasn't a lot of that going on in Tesla. So it's fun to watch him stretch out and play that kind of stuff. So, Dave, how did you meet him?
Actually, he bought our Echo Tap at the House of Guitars in Rochester, New York.
Mhm.
And, you know, having some gear there for sale, I obviously knew the sales guys, and they called me and said, hey, Frank just bought your Echo Tap. He wants your phone number. He wants to kind of reach out and see what else you have. And I think at that time he was really interested. He loves the Leslie style pedals, and he was really interested in the RotoSim. So I think that was probably the second pedal that I sent him. And he tried the RotoSim, and you know, he called me and said, Dave, you know, send me all your gear that you have. So we sent basically everything we had. And you know, throughout the years, the Tesla tours, he would get a hold of me and invite us up. You know, we'd go backstage, and if we had any new tweaks to existing pedals or new prototypes to try, we'd go up before the shows started, and he'd actually put them on his pedal board. One time, actually, when we started trailing off the RotoSim, starting in the discontinuation phase, he wanted to try the new RotoSPIN, which is a smaller version, cuts through a little bit more. And so we went up on stage during the warm-ups. He tried it, said, okay, we're going to use it tonight. I said, hold it, Frank. You know, you have not even had a chance to play with this thing. No, we're going to leave it on there. So we went to our seats that he got us in the audience. And when he kicked it in for that song, Love, I think it was just, you know, chills running up and down. But he's a really good guy. He's been a very good supporter. And, you know, we're working on some new stuff that I plan to get him in the future.
Yeah, and I think we'll maybe not right here because that'll be the rest of the show. We could talk about other artists and experiences you've had. We'll hold that, but we'll definitely get to that. When I forwarded today's link, I listed just a smattering of the people who have used the pedals, and it is dizzying. The first time we interviewed Dave, I'm glad I didn't see your artist page before you heard me play, because I would have not even picked up a guitar. So we'll get to that. A little teaser for a little further down in the show here, but I guess we just probably want to move on to the pedal of the day. Maybe greet a couple people that came in there, Jason. But
yeah, and we did talk about a lot of that when we interviewed Dave before.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't get to it,
right,
it is in the interview with Dave. Yeah, there's Brian, Uncle Bry is in, Christian. We were confused about that before. Pat's questioned me on whether I'm saying that name right. And who else? And Paul. Sorry now. And I see some other people watching. So if you're watching, please say hi in the chat. If you have questions for Dave as we go, please ask. But let's do it. Let's do pedal of the day. So I have two pedals here. When we did our first kind of series, our first deep dive into a style of pedal, because we were looking to do Leslie pedals, but then I tend to get a little overboard on things sometimes. And I started looking at like what Leslie pedals were out there. One that always kept coming up was the RotoSPIN. I guess we got to say hi to David Barber, just jumped in from Barber Electronics. So this was the RotoSPIN. So this is the first time we reached out to Dave. This was the first pedal he helped us getting so we could do that on the show. It's a Leslie simulator. He was just talking about it with Frank Hannon. Great Leslie simulator. And then because of our conversations with Dave, pedal of the day then would be.
I got jealous because Tremolo's my thing, and I was just like, we got to go another step.
So it is, and this is not. I think we have shown this as pedal of the day already on the series, and we've talked about it a couple other times on the series as well. So is the Tremolo. So we talked about it the other day. Our pedal of the day was the Cesar Diaz Tremolo, and that's been one of Pat's favorites forever. And we were talking about how he kicked this on when we were playing live, and I thought, like I always do, man, the Cesar Diaz sounds really good today. And then I realized it was in time. And I realized it's not the Cesar Diaz. It is this, and that speaks volumes. This thing sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Because it has a tap tempo. The drummers like me a whole lot more now that I'm not pushing and pulling a song with a tremolo. But it sounds great. And we'll do a proper demo of it when it's not on a compressed mic on a live stream.
And we can be in the same room together.
Yeah, and I don't know how deep you want to get into that pedal, Dave, but I think, some of that stuff seems pretty groundbreaking for a tremolo. With the different times you can do, the tap tempo. There's a lot going on with that pedal.
Yeah, we tend to try to put every flavor we can in there that somebody would want. Some people don't like too many bells and whistles. They want to keep it simple with a couple of controls. You know, our company strategy is just, put it out there and let the musician decide what kind of sound they're after, because everybody wants a slightly different tone, a slightly different sound, slightly different features. Um, yeah, I don't know if you want any history of how the whole pedal started at this point, or.
Sure, it's the pedal of the day. We got the guy who built it. Let's go for it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for everybody joining on, by the way, and some very good company with some real good musicians and makers, pedal makers. So in 2010, a guy by the name of Ben Carey played with Lifehouse. Um, the guys from Nelson Brothers had used my equipment, knew Ben real well. Ben got a hold of me before a show in Rochester, New York. They were doing a duo with Daughtry. They were on tour. So he really wanted to try all our pedals. So we went to the War Memorial in Rochester. This was 2010. And he actually had backstage a whole area with amps and guitars set up. Long story short, we brought all our gears up in for him to try. And that's the show I met Brian Craddock from Daughtry. Became a real good friend and prototype maker and effects user as well. So long story short, we became friends, and he said, "Hey, Dave, he's from Australia. He's got that accent. Hey, mate, why don't you try a tremolo pedal? And here's what I would like to see on it: tap tempo, stereo. And by the way, a lot of the effects we design have a lot of input from either, any level of musician has an idea. We're listening. He was talking about tap tempo, maybe a multiplier if we could do it. So we kind of went above and beyond that, and we thought we'd want to have a normal setting so you can adjust the rate, like with a normal pot, like most people do. But also we wanted to be able to have a tap channel that you could tap in and multiply, have either 1-to-1 taps, and we wanted to make the tap simple, so it just learned the last 2 taps you had in case your beat shifted a little bit while you're trying to tap in the tempo. But you can multiply it by 1, 2, 3, or 4, and that comes in handy.
I was trying to get a close up on that switch for you. I'll try and do that while you're talking.
Yeah, sure. And then, we got to talking, Ben and I sent it back and forth, and he said, well, some people may want it a warmer, a little bit more harsher. So what we did is we put a warmth pot in there, and we actually have 2 different optos in there. One's a little bit warmer, so as you rotate the pot towards tube, you get a little bit of warm, kind of like a Fender tremolo amp sound. And as you go counterclockwise, if you want, a deeper Green Day type tremolo that bites a little more, you can turn it clockwise or any blend in between. And, that's really never been done. So, we're happy about that. Most people use it about 50%, but, it can be used to taste. And then there was the waveforms, and some people like to have the duty cycle a little pretty sharp, almost like a playing backwards, a very slicing amount of sound coming through. So we put in a shape pot, and that adjusts the duty cycle. So all the way counterclockwise, you've got more on signal your guitar and less off, and all the way clockwise, you get very little signal through. So that was kind of a neat feature that we put in, or anywhere in between.
Yeah, I didn't have. You were talking about like a lot of features, but keeping it simple. Really, I threw it on my board one day. Well, we played it briefly at Jason's house, where he's sitting, and kind of dialed up something that sounded good. I threw it on my board. I didn't touch a thing. I could have probably made 1,200 other manipulations and changed things, but man, it is, even though it's feature laden, it is pretty simple to get a great sound out of it. And in the tap tempo, I thought I had landed in Nirvana or something. I'm like, this is great.
And so there's 2 other knobs. I don't think, unless you said it when I was trying to switch the camera over. There's a volume A and a volume B knob. So it has an A out and a B out, so it's stereo out, and it has an A and a B in. So could you just talk about that really quick?
Yeah, sure. What we wanted to do is put in 2 separate channels. Channel A is true bypass, so you can use that channel separately. or you can actually, and output B is buffered. So, and they're two completely separate channels, so you can adjust the volume of each channel. So you can use this thing in stereo, or you can have an input into A and use output A and output B, or you can have two completely separate channels into different amps. And then we actually put in a ping pong feature. That was one of the things that Ben wanted, to switch between amps. So it's pretty cool where you're using both channel A, and then channel B out into two separate amps, and you can ping pong them, and it switches the trem between each amp. It's kind of a neat signal. And what's neat about that too with the ping pong, if you're using the effect in mono and you just want to cut your tremolo in half, you can just step on that, and now because you're only using one amp, you'll get half the rate versus two, and then you can switch it back. So you put it in ping pong mode by holding the tap tempo switch down for 3 seconds, and then you get back out of it the same way. It was pretty intuitive.
So that's almost like adding. So not only do you have tap, well, Pat will like this. If he was following, not only do you have tap tempo, but then if you hold the tap button for 3 seconds, it would, if you're running mono, essentially cut your time in half.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, that's because that's like kind of like on your one that you use all the time before this, you had that half cut speed
right
on it. And then an expression pedal input too, so you can hook an expression pedal up, and that would probably control rate.
Correct. As long as you're in normal mode. That would be the mode you'd have to be in for the expression pedal to control the rate.
Now, you did send me. Do we want to get into this? You sent me a new owner's manual. So there's an update or a change or something that can be done or has been done. Do you want to explain that? I looked at it a little bit. I'm like, but we're going to have him on the show, so I'm going to wait and kind of hear it from him. I'm not sure if we're getting past our level of knowledge here.
Yeah, you probably can't see.
I can make you big.
Let me see if you can see it or not. Sorry, I'm trying to locate it.
That's backwards. It's crazy.
All right. Well, anyway, there's a jumper that we put in there, and what it does is it's 3 different waveforms. So you can, just like a computer jumper, there's 3 positions. One is triangle wave, which we normally use. The second position is kind of a custom wave, and the third position is a sine wave. So the sine wave makes it a little bit smoother, and the duty cycle a little bit different, a little bit warmer sounding. The triangle wave is kind of in between, and then the custom wave is, well, you got to kind of experiment with it to hear it, but it's also kind of in between. But so we normally set these things. Pat, the one you have is jumpered for the triangle wave, which we like the best, but you can experiment with some other waveforms if you want internally.
Okay.
So that's just a matter of taking the jumper and moving it.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So you had said something about a soldered, and I was like, oh, wait, does he think I'm going to get in there and solder anything? But
I can modify Pat's for him if you want.
Right.
You've done quite enough for us. But if we come to Rochester, I'll let you do it.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's the tremolo pedal.
So we're looking forward to get into it, right? Because as we went along in the Leslie, we decided we were going to run things that were on stereo. We did expression pedals. So we haven't done any of that with your pedal yet. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I know part of this is a ploy because Jason and I play at church together. He's really pressing the stereo issue for the tremolo because he wants to go stereo with his Leslies. So
there you go.
That's really what this is all about. This whole show is about Jason just trying to get to run stereo at church.
Right.
It's really got a neat sound in stereo. Another thing, and I've had some musicians try it in the field, is some tremolos don't play nice with overdrive or distortion, and at least so far, most have been pretty happy with the sound with overdrive and distortion. Keeps integrity and plays nice with those other effects, including modulation effects too.
Cool.
And so I'm not seeing any. I'm seeing some chat over here, and we have people joining us, which is awesome. Thank you guys, everybody that's joined us. Maybe that's a good segue into. Let's keep talking about the tremolo pedal, but where? So, like, in order to get it to play well with distortion and time-based effects, where in the chain do you typically recommend people put that?
Yeah, I usually use it obviously after overdrive or distortion gain units. And I like to have it before modulation, but some people prefer it after, as to taste. Some people want to use it in the effects loop, which is fine too.
There was was it Dan and Mick at that pedal show that were talking about it pre and post, even like post, because I normally think delay then reverb last, right? So if I'm building a pedal board, I'm putting my delay then my reverb last going out to the amp. But some people are, I guess, putting tremolo pedals even after that because of where they would be maybe in an amp. But I guess in the amp it would still be before reverb. I don't know. It's a rabbit hole we haven't explored yet.
Right.
Jason was trying to drag you down that hole.
Yeah, it kind of depends.
Hang on.
Kind of depends on the other pedals you're putting in a position with, because every pedal can react slightly different.
Would in an old Fender amp would the tremolo be before or after it would be before the reverb, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not positive about that.
Trying to think. All right, so
Brian has a question in there, Jason.
Oh, does he?
Yep.
All right, let's show that. Could you have a wet, dry rig and run the tremolo in stereo?
When you say wet, dry rig, so you're talking one channel wet and the other dry?
So I think typically like one amp is getting your effects.
Right.
And the other amp is just getting your dry signal.
Yeah. No, I don't think there'd be a way to do that with this. We don't have a dry output, but good question.
And then they got like the wet. That's one thing I haven't dived too far into. Then you have like your wet, dry, wet rigs, and I'm not really sure. And maybe Brian could elaborate on this question a little bit. Because are you sending? Do you know how like some over some delays and reverbs allow you to send just the wet signal out?
Right.
Right. So you're not sending any dry signal to that. And I think that's what's going on, like in a wet dry.
I gotcha. There'd probably be a creative way to do that. But not standard. No, it wouldn't be an easy thing to do.
Okay. So one of the things that we've been trying to talk to people about, and this is up to you on how much you don't want to get into it or whatever, with the reason for this show being that a lot of people are at home right now, like how's that affecting what you do? Can people still order pedals from you? Like what's happening in that arena, I guess?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We're pinging away, building product in anticipation for when this thing's over. We're actually coming out with a new product. I haven't let the cat out of the bag yet, but it's a delay. Alex Lyson actually beta tested it for us, as did Brian Craddock from Daughtry. So we're busy building up product in the meantime. Cases are on their way in, and so we're busy doing that as well as building up some inventory. We are still shipping. We do have UPS pickup, so we're still shipping product, which is a good thing. But basically, it's people kind of working individually right now.
And we've heard different things from different people, right? What supplies they had on hand, what they can still get, what might become scarce. You're still pretty good in that realm. Are you still been able to get things you need, or did you have a pretty good stock of that before this went down?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of the stuff we buy is in the United States, which is a good thing, including the circuit board assemblies. We'll do the design, and somebody I know actually owns a contract manufacturing company, so we had no problem getting circuit boards. The cases have been a little bit more of a challenge, but I understand that those are on their way in. So we have the material. We have family help build. So although we do practice the CDC type guidelines and try not to work on top of each other, we can.
Well, I've heard if you take two Stratocasters and put them together like this, that's the social distancing length. So keep two guitars between you and all the other employees.
There you go. So we're still plugging away. We've gotten material deliveries pretty good, and we'll just keep building until this is hopefully over and everybody can kind of get to some sort of normalcy, right?
Right. Dave Barber was on the show last week, and we've talked to him a lot. He's actually kind of local to us. He came over to the house for the interview we did with him.
Yeah.
And he was saying the same thing. The boxes are the problem right now. Like I think
exactly, and they make good stuff, by the way. Very good. But yeah, some of the stuff, some things you have to get from China to be competitive. But whatever we can buy in the States, we do, including the most cost intense part, which is the circuit board assemblies and the final assembly, obviously. So we try to keep what we can domestic if we can.
So you said you haven't kind of let the cat out of the bag, but you hinted that it might be a delay pedal coming out.
Yeah.
If I think back to our first interview with you, was the delay pedal the first pedal you made?
It was. The delay pedal was the first. Good memory. It was an Echo Tap, and it was a dual channel.
It was huge, right?
Oh yeah, it was a large pedal, but that was the pedal that got us going with Aerosmith back in the early 2000s, and that was really the first pedal that put us on the map.
So yeah, Brian's asking, are cases stamped in a press?
Good question. They're cast aluminum cases, and they are stamped.
And you have several different shapes, right? Like, I mean, because the two we have are two different cases. So how many different enclosures do you have, like size-wise?
Yeah, we've got 5 different enclosures right now. The Tremolo, you can see, that's a pretty custom design that I did, and it's pretty heavy gauge metal, so very tour worthy. And then, musicians, the business changes. It starts, people wanted smaller, lighter, and less expensive if you could do it. And of course, we want to make things as affordable as we can for all musicians, as everybody enjoy the sound and the creativity and art, hopefully from our pedals and other pedals too. But there's different shapes and sizes. We're starting to lean towards the smaller aluminum enclosure, like the Reckless Driver, that one we did for Alex Lifeson there.
Where is that? Right here.
Yeah, that's actually Frank Hannon right there with the Reckless Driver. You see that?
Well, that would be this box, right? That's same
correct.
box as you have the RotoSPIN in.
Exactly right. Yes. But the Echo is actually going to be smaller than that. It's a touring Echo, and once again, I kind of went back and forth with Alex Lifeson, and he told me what he was looking for, and it was right up the alley for him to tour with or take out to. He said it was for the old folks' home. So if he's playing at the old folks' home, God bless him. He's a good guy. The point is something small with enough features, and of course we put a few extra bells and whistles into our delay than normal. But
yeah, I'm curious to see, not to get down a rabbit trail too much, but like what Alex is going to do given the circumstance, unfortunate with Neil's passing. Like, what will he do, right? I mean, you're sort of at the pinnacle, and you're touring with one of the most famous, successful rock bands ever. And, they kind of knew, I think, even before unfortunate passing, that they were kind of winding down. But he's a great player. And again, I mentioned earlier in the top of the broadcast here, there's going to be some, I didn't say it this way, but some pretty heavy names dropped, and that's one. So can we just take a pause there and tell a little bit how, like, you came across your relationship with Alex? I like to call him Alex, like I know him. Mr. Life.
Yeah. No, he's a great guy. He really is. And I did email him recently, and he said he's holed up like everybody else.
Right.
Just kind of waiting for this thing to pass by. But yeah, it's kind of a convoluted story. Actually started with Rascal Flatts. Rascal
Flatts Rush. Sure, I see that.
Kind of missing in the wind here. How did that happen? Rascal Flatts was interested in our RotoSPIN, a guy by the name of Dave Graff, great guy, guitar tech, wanted a Leslie effect for Joe Don Rooney. And we sent one down to him, and they invited us up to the state fair. I think it was Rascal Flatts and Taylor Swift. This was way, way back when. And matter of fact, it was after 2001 with the terrorist attacks, right? Mm-hmm. And I was bringing in a box of effects because he wanted to try the other stuff before the show started. My daughter said, "Dad, there's no way you're going to get all these effects in here. There's state troopers all over the place." So I'm carrying this box on my shoulder because if they want to see it, I want to show them, right? And I walk right past them. We meet up with Dave Graff, bring the effects backstage, and I meet a guitar tech named Bucky. They call him Bucky. A great guy, and he was teching for Taylor Swift. And turns out that Bucky was Alex Lifeson's guitar tech back in the day, before that actually. So I got a hold of him and I said, listen, I've got some course units. I think Alex would really like it. Can you arrange for me to send Alex Lifeson my Ultra course? He said, yeah, sure, I can do that. Month after month went by after that show, and I kept reaching out to him. He said, yeah, I keep bugging Alex. And of course, I didn't have his direct contact at that time. So about 5 months later, and I think it was that long, I got an email saying, so sorry, in the subject line, and I almost deleted it. I mean, this far away from deleting it. I opened it up. It's Alex Lifeson. So sorry it took so long to check out your Ultra course. I love it. I'm going to use it in the studio. And next thing I knew, we were invited up to a show also at the State Fair, believe it or not. And I met Alex and Getty and talked with Alex a little bit more backstage, and that's kind of how the relationship started.
That's great. Yeah, not to go down the rabbit trail too far, because it's on our interview, right? Like some of your success in connecting with those artists has been through guitar techs, right? Those are
absolutely.
Guys have been a little bit of your bread and butter, and then you get, quote, entree to the artist and maybe exchange some ideas about what features they would like. And so there's some good stories. I think we captured a couple of those on our interview with you before, but yeah.
Right.
So.
Looking over here at the chat just to make sure we're not missing any comments. I don't think we're missing any questions. So if you have questions for Dave, I mean, this is the time to ask them.
That's right.
Right? It's a good time to ask them.
Brought to you live in front of a quarantined audience. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So, what else do you got over there, PJ?
Well, I'm going to keep on the rabbit trail because I'm the biggest name dropper, selfie taking person on the planet. So it kind of happened. Like, I'm still fascinated.
True story.
That is a true story. Pop up all my selfies here with Brent Mason and Tommy Emmanuel. They look like hostages in all the photos, but they're in them. So
yeah.
So you kind of mentioned before our interview, and even just kind of briefly there, that like the whole Aerosmith connection happened really early, right? Like,
oh yeah.
So that's not a bad, quote, first client, if you will. So maybe you can...
that kind of put us on gave us credibility, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think I shared this story, that we got a call from musictoys.com. That was when there wasn't a million online retailers, right? They were a big one, Teddy Rash over there. And he said, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I just got an order for one of your effects from Aerosmith on Aerosmith letterhead. And then I got to know, once again, the guitar tech, Greg Howard, great guy. He ended up, teching for Green Day and Aerosmith and a bunch of other bands. AC/DC. We got invited up for AC/DC as well. So anyway, he got a hold of me and said, hey, I also like your course. Can you make it a stereo? It was normally not a stereo product. So we made a stereo, shipped it to him. And when they came to Buffalo, New York, we were invited up backstage. And I'd never been backstage before. I mean, so it was just thrilling. My wife and I went back there. Matter of fact, we saw some friends in intermission. And I said, hey, Frank, how you doing? I said, hey, a great concert, isn't it? It was after the first act. He said, where are you going? I said, we're going backstage. He said, you got to be kidding me. He was as much in awe as I was. But once again, we just met some really good people at all levels. It doesn't matter to me if it's a guitar tech or a roadie or, I got mutual respect for every level of person and musician. And I've just made a lot of good relationships and friends. And if it turns out to be the artist, fine. And if not, fine,
Right.
So you mentioned musictoys.com, which I think is always interesting when that comes up, because that was like, I don't know if it's the early days of the internet, but certainly before cell phones and browsing it while you're on your iPhone or your iPad, and certainly before Reverb and the stuff that we have now. Music Toys was like kind of the big place. Like if you wanted to go find out what the new pedal was, and I'm thinking back, in those early days, there was not a lot of pedal companies.
No, there was, especially in the boutique area, there was not. It was a lot different.
You were pretty early. So what year did you start?
Actually, 1999.
And that's kind of pretty early for the boutique world, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, I think in the beginning I was buying my triple pole, double throw switches from Full Tone for quite a while. And those guys were really good, and I respected them. They make good gear as well.
Yeah, because I remember browsing music. Like, that was the place, Like, now I go to, Reverb and stuff a lot. But Music Toys is still there. I mean, he's still there, still has pedals. It's still a great resource. And if people aren't familiar with it, it probably would be a good place to go and check out.
Yeah, Teddy's a good guy. Yeah, we've done business with him for a long time. More and more manufacturers are also handling direct because, it can be tough with so much competition out there. Some guys want to service the customer direct. And you can be one of many, and whatever sells in a certain area, and whatever doesn't. So, the more specialized companies tend to do a pretty good direct online business as we do. And we also sell to Reverb as well. We have a store there.
And we've noticed that there's this weird community in the pedal world where, like, for you to say, oh yeah, David Barber's down there, he makes good stuff. If it was Gibson, if we were interviewing Gibson and Fender dropped in, they probably wouldn't say that. Like, there's like this.
Maybe like circling each other like the Sharks and the Jets,
Yeah, right.
It's come up in almost every interview that we've done with people that are building pedals, where they will freely talk about maybe some other pedal companies or the relationships they have with other pedal companies. And so there seems to be like this, even though it's a competitive world, and like you said, I mean, there's so many of them now, it's highly competitive in some regards, but in other regards, it seems like everybody gets along a little bit.
Yeah. I think as you get older, you realize you got to check your ego at the door and do what's right for the product and the customers. And tout what you do the best. Don't try to put anybody else down for what you think maybe they don't. Maybe they'll come along someday, but we just try to do what we do well. We have a lot of respect for a lot of the other pedal companies out there that also have that philosophy.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool community.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to get to know some of the people in that community and see how it works, and it's been kind of fun.
I'm gonna give Jason a lot of credit for showing restraint, because there is a V-style guitar over your shoulder.
Oh yeah.
And Jason is very enamored with said guitars, and maybe we do an impromptu shift to a guitar of the day. What's that back there, Dave?
Yeah, that's a Hamer Vector.
Okay.
I bought that in Rochester House Guitars in 1982 or 1983. It's a very early serial number. 2 humbuckers in it, very light wood and very sweet to play. Yeah.
Which you did play in a band and for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
So the style of music would be indicative of a V, perhaps? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to rock, but I also went in and did some mellow recordings after all. I played in a band called Dark Star for quite a few years, and so I used that along with Gibson SG.
So you had a guitar on your lap when you first jumped on.
I did. Yeah. This is from 1980. Really great with the Marshall amp. These humbucker pickups are really sweet sounding. So
nice.
This one I do a lot of my sound samples with, and my son is like, "Well, if you ever go someday, you got to leave that guitar to me." And I said, "Well, hopefully that's going to be a while longer. Thank you."
Yeah, I'm not going to grab it again, but I have my grandfather's 65, Les Pauls. It's kind of the SG over there, and same kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
he left it to me, but I didn't want it quickly, right? So
you're right.
So I see Guitar Hack jumped in, or I'm repping for him today. Another YouTuber. Yeah,
I don't know that I'm as enamored with the Flying V as I am. Well, it's one of these things where my wife has said no. She said, no flying V's. So now I have to have one.
To go with your gold sparkle Gretsch and your
Right. If I could
turquoise
find like
Strat
a
that she
gold
loves.
sparkle flying V, it would probably be the ultimate guitar to really irritate her.
So, Dave, I'll ask you a question because you mentioned like maybe you play that guitar. How do you test your pedals after the design? Probably like
Right.
some people we've heard maybe use a looper. Some people play different things. Like, how do you do it?
I just play right out front with the Black Star amp and the SG, and that's how we do the final testing.
Kind of a mixture of power chords, open chords, little lead lines.
Oh yeah,
thing,
right. We do some leads, and then we, of course, we put the pedals in the front in the prototype stage. But once they're proven out, so to speak, we just play them out front, do some leads, do some rhythms, maybe kick on some distortion and make sure it's playing nice, and the headroom is set correctly, and we're off and running. Yeah,
it's great.
And so that's the final test. When you're developing them, the same kind of thing, like as you're building like a circuit.
Right. We'll throw it on our pedal board with all excuse me, I can't talk. All our other effects on the pedal board, and when we're in development, and like you were alluding to earlier, we'll try it in different positions to make sure it's good in the chain. We'll also try it in the effects loop to make sure everything's okay in the effects loop. And then we just try it with several different guitars. We'll try it with a Fender in the SG, and then we'll send it out to some beta testers. And they really put it through the ringer. I've got 3 or 4 beta testers in the country. One in Canada we mentioned by the name. Well, I shouldn't say he's a beta tester because he was interested in that pedal, but quite a few people will send it out to that put it through the ringers. And believe me, if there's something they don't like, they will tell me, and that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get your product to be better. I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So let's see. We're about 41 minutes here, so we have a couple minutes probably left that we could go. Guitar, nice shirt, by the way.
Yeah. So basically, you kind of alluded to the fact that the current situation hasn't really slowed you down. So the top secret pedal that you're currently working on, how long till a pedal can come to fruition? Like how, I know based on the testing and maybe if you have it out to people, that kind of thing, but like, what is sort of the life cycle of getting one out?
Yeah. That kind of depends. Most of our pedals will be 8 months to a year, believe it or not. Part of it's because we're so busy. That trying to find time, and the other part is the cycles it takes to get units out to the beta testers, try it, get it back, any tweaks we do, send it back out, and we're always trying to improve the gear ourselves as well. And then we get the cases designed, the circuit boards fabricated, artwork done, and then it all comes together. So typically around a year. This delay pedal's been a little quicker than that, thank goodness. It's not as complicated as our other pedals. So generally a year, yeah.
So how soon until you think the delay pedal's going to be out?
I'm thinking 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the circuit boards. We're already programming them, getting them built up, waiting for the cases. Get the cases out for silk screening, and then get it launched. Yeah, we're really excited about it. It's a simple little product. It's small, I think, at least the feedback's been, it sounds great. You can get some reverb out of it, and maybe a little tape echo sound out of it if you adjust some of the features correctly. And so we're excited about it.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thanks.
So you get that's something else that we've heard about. So you have somebody locally do the screen printing for you then on the...
We do. Yes. A guy that used to work for ART. I don't know if you remember that name. Audio equipment here in Rochester, New York. Great guy, and he plays in a band. So I've been doing work with him for years. Really good screen printer.
So are they powder coated when they come in, or do you have to do that too? Or
yes, they're powder coated and machined, or punched, I should say, and they're ready to go. So, matter of fact, I'm finalizing the artwork for it right now, and we'll do some test runs with different colors to see what we like, and we'll get this thing going.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I got to get Alex Tyson a final, and Brian Craddock a final unit. They've got prototypes right now with handmade labels on it, but the guts are pretty much the same.
Does Alex have a favorite color?
It's a good question. Let's see. What would Rush's favorite color be? I'm not sure.
Who knows, right? Lime for Limelight.
There you go. Yeah.
So a couple more questions. I'm like curious, George. Today it's like the first time I've ever talked to you, but I don't think I have an idea. I'm quite sure probably some people who are chiming in and watching, like for this run of delays. Maybe we'll just use that as an example. Like first of all, like how many other people are working with you? I know you mentioned family. Like how many other people, and then how many pedals might be in a run of this first batch? Like what is your goal or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we also we have probably 3 or 4 people that help us on and off. Depending, right now it's obviously a little bit slower as you would anticipate, and I don't blame people. But normally we'll try to do a 1,000-piece run, an introductory, and see how it goes. We haven't really talked to any retailers or online stores at this point. We may with this product. So we'll see, but normally about 1,000 to start on the first run.
So that's a pretty big number. Like to me, that that number strikes me. That's a big number. That's great. That gives you an idea of, the popularity of your pedals and the success you've had if you were doing a run of 1,000. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't tell you how long they'd be in inventory either. So. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. They might be vintage at some point by the time I buy
years.
One. Blowing dust.
Yeah, let's hope not. Let's hope that doesn't last long.
Yeah.
All right. So, Pat, do you have other questions?
Well, it's the typical quarantine question. You good on toilet paper? Is that you stock up there? That's really the money question right there.
Well, I haven't raked my leaves purposely just in case.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So far, so good. Hope everybody's families are safe, and we'll all get through this. American people, I think, are doing their part, which is a great thing. I know the musicians have been doing a lot of posts online, which is really cool. And it's really great to see the musician community coming together and doing things like that. We've got local guys doing posts and basically all over the country, so it's entertaining. And some really good talent out there.
Well, local guys all the way up to Paul Simon keeps posting these little clips of him playing like in his living room or something, and you can't. It makes you wonder why we needed a worldwide pandemic for some of those people just to post some just things like that. Those make you feel so good,
Absolutely.
I also wonder if he gets a copyright hit on his videos.
Can't make money on his own stuff.
I don't think he needs it at this point, huh?
Right. Oh, probably not at all, right?
He'll take some of Edie Brickell's money if he needs it.
There you go.
So, how many rolls of toilet paper for RotoSPIN?
It's going to take a lot. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's 1-to-1 at this point. We'll see.
Create a conversion chart.
I'll tell you one thing. It does make you appreciate, and especially the younger generation, kind of maybe took things for granted, right? And I don't think we're going to do that so much anymore.
Right.
Usually, there's something good that comes out of something really bad. Unfortunately, you have to go through something like this. But
I've described this whole scenario like an unfortunate insurance claim, right? Maybe you wreck your car, maybe your pipes leak, and it's a tragedy at the moment. And you're like, this is terrible, and you're cleaning stuff up. And then the insurance claim is settled, and like, wait a minute, I just got a new kitchen out of a broken pipe, right? So I think some of the things are going to change. Like you're talking about maybe the way we interact with each other, maybe the type of things that people are more apt to put things online now. I think there's going to be a lot of things come out of this that have forced us to go somewhere that we weren't planning on going. But at the end of the day, we might look back and be like, wow, it's kind of like what Jason was saying. Like, why did it take something like this to kind of connect at a deeper level? So,
I agree.
Right. And then like you have like some of the family dynamics that are, I think some parents getting more time with children that they haven't maybe had because they've been so busy. You have like just a lot of like a moment to kind of, I said the other night in another thing that we were doing that, when am I ever going to get the opportunity, to be sequestered at my house and not be able to go anywhere for an extended period of time?
Right.
Like we dream for that. Like I would just want 2 more extra days on the weekend, right? They just gave me months.
Yeah.
So as an online teacher, like I'm online teaching kids every day still, and I think my biggest concern right now in all of it, goes back to that too. There's some of those kids that are sequestered at home and the situations that they're sequestered in. I do have a bit of a worry for that, but hopefully good will come out of that. So we'll see.
True. Very true.
And we've all been introduced to Zoom, not this broadcast, but Zoom.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've used that before.
That's the one. I wish I had bought stock in.
There you go.
Yeah, I said to my coworker, we just bought stock in Zoom.
Yes.
A week before this went down. All right. So No Cover Charge said it's time for a new pedal. Well, I think
go to DLSeffects.com, right?
Yeah. The new pedal will be the new delay.
Yeah, I'm thinking if he's just joined us, we just talked about a new pedal coming out.
Yes.
Maybe you just need any of the new DL. Oh my gosh, I did it again.
DLS Effects. Everybody does that.
It's because of the trucking company, I guess.
Yeah. We have been working on a few other pedals in the background as well. Those I don't want to go into too much detail on at this point. But the new pedal will be coming out. I'll tell you, one of the areas, if I got to be self-critical, one of the areas that we need to do a better job on are videos and sound samples. We tend to have people we know do those, and that's not a horrible thing, but they probably don't represent the pedals the best, So I've actually been reaching out to people, as yourselves. If you ever want to do a video, we'd really appreciate it. Push your name and get something done.
Yeah,
we'd be happy to.
Oh yeah, we're happy to do anything.
We owe you one already, so
yeah. I mean, we love.
We'll owe you a few more. It's fine.
We love your pedals, so
yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, one of the goals here has become to try and support the people who are making products that we love. And that's been kind of one of the goals of the show. And I know sometimes in the YouTube world, people will get critical of all your reviews are good, right? You're just all your reviews. Well, all of our reviews are probably going to be good because we record the stuff that we like, or we want to do the stuff that we like. So that's what's up with that.
And Dave, don't feel bad. You're not the first person to have come on the last several weeks that do what you do that are self-proclaimed not the best marketer, right? Because you guys are so distracted by doing the stuff that matters in a big way, So there's a little support group going on here too. If you, we can give you some other numbers if you need to connect with other people.
Well, I'll tell you, I might want to do that because, like I said, that is probably one of the things we do not do ourselves justice for are the online videos and sound samples. So, when you got somebody like Frank Hannon doing one, that's pretty good. Other ones that are probably could do a better job representing the sound of this.
I'll tell you what. On Wednesday we had Brian Ewald on the show, and he does a little. That's not like his main thing. So Brian Ewald's the guy that does PRS product specialist. So like whenever you see PRS put out a new guitar, he does the demo on the new guitar. He's done some pedals. He demos some pedals here and there. Again, that's not like he's a recording artist. He does a lot of session work. Does a lot of hired gun kind of work. Has his own bands and stuff. But he does like really nice professional videos. He's a great player too.
We need to make some investments in that area. The good news is most of the people that actually, not all of them. I mean, there's some people that are looking for a sound. You just can't satisfy, and that's okay. It's like, okay, return. Well, we really get very few returns. We always have a try it for a period of time and return it at no charge minus the shipping, and we'll give you a refund. But we really have very little of that. Mm-hmm. So we're happy with that aspect of it.
Right. All right. So then Hack said, if you do demos and stuff you bought, it's probably going to be I mean, it's just research and thought that goes into things that you.
Yeah.
Put it this way: if we didn't like the RotoSPIN, we wouldn't have wanted the Tremolo, right?
All right. Yes. Thank you. No, you guys have been great. Really.
Yeah, we've been loving your pedals. They sound great. We want to support you in that regard. We are about 54 minutes here, so we're trying to wind these things down right around the hour mark. Dave, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. This is the second time you spent an hour with us, and we appreciate it so much. Hopefully we can talk to or promote somehow, even if somehow we'll help promote when the delay pedal comes out, let us know about that so we can at least point people on our social media that direction.
Great.
What else? Anything else, Pat? I think we're not really sure what's happening with this next week. We're working on it.
Right. Well, we said 19 conversations because we wanted to pass time. It was a little wink and a nod to the name of the said virus, and I put the shark in the tank, and we got to 18. 19 might be a recap of the previous 18, but we've really enjoyed doing this, so we're going to try to keep the momentum going and get some other people booked. But right now, it's a lot of irons in the fire, and it's like Jell-O before you put it in the refrigerator. So we're working on that, but
right.
But tomorrow we're going to go live. It may be a recap of what we've done. We got a couple people. If we pull a rabbit out of the hat, there'll be somebody. But if not, you'll have to look at the two of us, which is not the best thing that ever happened to you. But we talked about having Hollywood Squares and get everybody who's been on, get all of them on the picture together and just have like a panel.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah. But I do want to thank Dave too for coming on, because part of the reason that we want to do these things, and part of the reason we've gone back to people more than once, is because we think it's important for you to know the people behind the products, right? And the people that we've had on definitely twice are people that we like, and we pretty much like most people. But this gives an insight into Dave and who he is and his attitude, and the kindness that you can see coming from Dave, and that he's not really a respecter of persons, whether it's Alex Lifeson or somebody in our chat. You want to talk about pedals, you want to buy a pedal, you need help, Dave's going to take care of you. So we're really happy that you can come on again. You can talk about your products. People can get a little bit more of an insight into you, because that connection in a crowded field, right? Like that connection to the person, and maybe having heard them talk and had an opportunity to ask them a question goes a long way. So thank you for coming on. It's hopefully mutual beneficial to both of us. So
yeah, and he's been such a big. He's been a great supporter of us too, which is we really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys do a great service, and I appreciate it, and enjoy working with you guys. And thanks for everybody who tuned in as well. I really appreciate it. And
this will be archived on our channel too, so people can go back. We get comments a couple days after too, so it'll be out there. People can revisit this.
Yeah, so it stays, and people can come back, and we can push people to it and all that. So it's great. So I think,
what did David Barber asking him here? Oh, David Barber, what's the top square if we go Hollywood Square? So
can we do it? Can we do it and like play a game show kind of thing? Like ask the pedal builder and come up with like, what's your favorite? What are the questions? What's your favorite pizza? Do you have?
That's right.
What kind of bread? What was the one from the one?
Oh, yeah. What kind of bread would you be?
Yes.
Way more loaded question than it seems like.
So I think with that, Pat.
Yes, that's right. Well, with that, thanks again for everybody joining in. Thanks to Dave. Thanks to Jason for all the work he does to make these happen. But with that, I'm PJ on behalf of the Beard, reminding you, no matter what you hear, you never have too much gear. Wash your hands.
Have a great day. You could subscribe. I forgot that, but
you could. Yeah.
Right. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Have a nice day. Thanks,
Dave.
Thanks for everybody tuning in.